F1 on BBC Radio 5 Sports Extra.
Hello and a very warm welcome to you. This is live coverage of round 2 of the 2025 Formula One World Championship. We've headed to China for this one. We've had a sprint race to kickstart Saturday in Shanghai. A sprint won by Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari. History being made today at the Shanghai International Circuit, but it's now all focus towards the Grand Prix as we build up to qualifying. Lovely conditions across the circuit this morning. Air temperature about 26 degrees, a light breeze in the air and blue sky interrupted with light wispy cloud cover. And talking you through this one is myself, Harry Benjamin, the McLaren Formula E driver Sam Bird, and the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson. And well, Sam, I think we're all still a little bit reeling from Lewis Hamilton standing on the top step of the sprint podium and taking his first win for Ferrari. What a way to start Saturday.
As you know, I'm not biased, but if anybody was going to win other than two papaya-coloured cars, Lewis Hamilton winning was a great result, wasn't it? Not only for himself, for Ferrari, but also for Formula One in general. People questioned whether this move would work, whether he was slowly fading away in the sport of Formula One. He's answered those critics. He's not going away, and he's still as classy a driver as ever.
Yeah, Andrew, I mean, this will, I know it's only the sprint, but this will make headlines globally almost no matter what happens for the rest of the weekend. But this is promising for Ferrari after a really tough start last week in Melbourne.
Very much so. I think everybody thought in Formula One that something just went wrong for Ferrari in Australia. They weren't quite sure why. They weren't showing the pace that they showed in pre-season testing in Bahrain. They've looked pretty quick all weekend, pretty much where they should have been in qualifying. Probably next best after McLaren. But whereas McLaren didn't deliver in qualifying yesterday, sprint qualifying I should say. I think Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris both found the car quite difficult to drive, and the team got their tyre strategy a bit wrong. There was Hamilton ready to pounce. He beat Charles Leclerc fair and square in his second qualifying session for Ferrari, which is quite some feat because Charles Leclerc is incredibly fast. So it just goes to show that class is permanent, doesn't it? And he drove absolutely brilliantly in the sprint race earlier today. Fended off an attack from Max Verstappen off the line, was very clearly not going to let the Red Bull through, and then managed his tyres carefully in a race where everybody was struggling with graining, which is the tearing of the tyre around the Shanghai track. And he just, in the second half of the race, he just pulled away into the distance. Very, very impressive.
There is something about Shanghai and Hamilton which just seems to always be a beautiful combination. The man has the most wins at 6, the most amount of poles of anyone at 6, the most podiums too at 9. Could he add to that pole position tally come the end of the next hour? We are about to find out. Normal Grand Prix qualifying as we have come to know it will have Q1 up first 18 minutes before the slowest 5 cars are eliminated. But we'll come to the papaya-coloured cars, shall we, Sam? Because there is the general consensus that they didn't maximise their sprint qualifying, so we are expecting them to be more in the hunt this afternoon.
Yeah, neither of the cars had the cleanest and best of laps in the Q3 for the sprint race. I mean, Lando made mistakes on both of his attempts when he did a push-pull-push. Other teams as well went out a lot later than McLaren. McLaren, both races now for Australia and here, have opted to go out early in the session and get a lap time done. I think that hurt them yesterday for the sprint. Maybe we'll see a different tactic today, although they'll probably have 2 sets of softs going into Q3.
Yeah, well, they are already beginning to line up in the fast lane of the pit lane, waiting for that green light to come on before we get Q1 underway. Sam, talk us through this track, the Shanghai International Circuit. You've raced here before. Such a unique track with that ominous almost turn 1 and that hugely long back straight.
A really challenging track, Harry. Really, really challenging. Turn 1 is like nothing else you'll drive anywhere else on the planet. It just goes on and on and on forever. Very, very difficult to hold the car, carry the speed, and not have some kind of slide, either the front overslipping or having a big oversteer mid-corner when the car's laterally loaded. Then you get further around the lap, the tyres are screaming, you get through turn 13, then you've got to pick a braking point for 14, and again, very, very easy to snatch off the inside front. into there, but all in all, a challenging, demanding circuit that is easy to underdrive, yet really easy also to overdrive.
Yeah, Fernando Alonso said this was the best layout in terms of driving coming into this weekend. As we get Q1 underway, the green light is on at the end of the pit lane. 17 minutes and 46 seconds remaining of this first part of qualifying, where that first corner is almost a never-ending right-hander. 270 degrees you're turning in on yourself. Before then, you're switching all the way back and going the opposite direction. You've got medium speed corners, and then of course, as Sam's been saying, that hugely long 1.4 kilometre back straight. 16 turns in total make up this Shanghai International Circuit, 9 to the right and 7 to the left. In terms of how the championship is looking after one Grand Prix and a sprint, it's Lando Norris who leads, 26 points to his name, ahead of Max Verstappen on 24. Then it's Russell, Antonelli and Alex Albon, the top 5 in the Drivers' Championship. And over in the Constructors, after the sprint now, McLaren take the lead fully in the Constructors' Championship by 1 point, 35 to Mercedes 34. Red Bull in third, with Ferrari and Williams rounding out the top 5. Only 2 teams yet to get off the mark, Alpine and Haas. Everybody else had scored points so far, which actually is quite impressive so far in this early stage of the season.
Yeah, it's spread out nicely actually over the course of the first sort of race and a half, let's put it. But Harry, question to you, who needs a good qualifying today?
Well,
who's on the back foot?
I think you might have read my mind. I think Red Bull need a good qualifying from the man you can hear right now, just making his way out of the pit lane. Liam Lawson has had a tough opening weekend in Australia. The Kiwi driver who starts his first full season as a Formula One driver, and he's been catapulted in as Max Verstappen's teammate. It's a hard task.
It's a hard task, but one that I just don't understand how it's so difficult. I know Max has got a specific driving style, but you would have thought a driver of his caliber would be able to get on top of the tools and on top of the car. You know, I'm not saying that I'm not saying you put him in the same bracket as Lewis Hamilton, but you look at how Lewis has been able to jump from the Mercedes to the Ferrari and get on top of it quickly. Liam Lawson now, I would expect him to get much, much closer very soon to Max Verstappen.
Yeah, well, he will be needing a good run then, having qualified for the sprints. Plumb last, managed to make up a few positions but didn't score any points, and found himself involved in a few skirmishes this morning. So neat and tidy will be the order of the day, and trying to be as quick as he can. Everybody out on the circuit then, with the exception of the 2 Mercedes drivers, George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, and Max Verstappen yet to emerge. Everybody out there on the soft tyre. And Carlos Sainz, I think, Sam, is also another driver who'll be wanting to put in a good show. Has been a bit on the back foot so far this weekend, and behind his teammate Alex Albon.
Yeah, he hasn't looked that comfortable this weekend. The car looks okay, a little bit unresponsive from the front end. The track will ramp up throughout this session. They've had quite a few support races going around in between the sprint and qualifying. Also, the track sweepers have been out there as well. There'll be a little bit of dust down, so I expect the times to get quicker and quicker through this Q1 session.
So Sainz has been struggling with balance, you're absolutely right. Bear in mind that since the sprint, the teams have all been able to have a look at their setups and change them. So these could be new cars with new behaviours for anyone who wasn't happy. Sainz, I'm sure, is a very cerebral driver. He will have definitely been going over the data, looking for ways to improve the handling of that car. And he's coming towards the end of his lap after Hülkenberg, Bortoleto, Stroll and Alonso so far is the order.
Well, it seems like Sainz was really struggling with tyre degradation, we think, from the sprint. The only driver who pitted to change tyres. Of course, in the sprint, no mandatory pit stops. You run till the very end. And straight away, though, on track, we've got a driver off. It's Jack Doohan in the Alpine, who finds himself spinning off onto the grass and makes his way back onto the track again. I think that was coming through the double left-handers of turn 9 and 10.
That's not good for Jack Doohan. He's a man under pressure because of Colapinto, the reserve driver, with a lot of potential obviously a lot of South American money hanging on him. Doohan, we know, we believe, has been given 5 or 6 races. He had a very clumsy incident towards the end of the sprint earlier, and a spin at the start of qualifying. Flavio Briatore, who makes the decisions at Alpine, won't have been impressed by that.
No, towards the end of the sprint race, Clouting Gabriel Bortoleto for that. Doohan was given a 10-second time penalty, and he's notched 2 penalty points up. Those are his first penalty points in his F1 career, so he joins the board of drivers with those. You get 12 before you get a 1 race ban, which we saw only one driver get so far since they've been introduced. Kevin Magnussen got that last year. No K-Mag on the grid this year. Right, 12 minutes and 48 seconds to go. We're now starting to get the proper flyers in. Lando Norris goes to the top of the times, fastest of anybody in the final sector, but that's already been taken away. 1:32.0 for him. Gasly is second, but Hamilton's quick through the middle sector. Piastri's fastest in the first sector. Charles Leclerc has put together a nice lap as well, but actually he's 8/10 off Norris as he crosses the line in 6th. Hamilton to the top of the times in these early stages. Fastest of anybody in the middle sector, fastest overall. What can Oscar Piastri do to disrupt it? He certainly can, and finds less than 1/10 of a second to go quickest in these early stages. 1:31.5 for Piastri ahead of Hamilton, Norris, Gasly and Ocon, the top 5 drivers.
So we're seeing a replay now. Jack Doohan, just a little bit too much throttle mid-corner, trying to get a good exit, and rear end complaining, saying no thank you Jack, not today.
And putting an unnecessary strain as those tyres skidded round, and he let the car roll into the grass before he got going again. Now I think we have a reason for Charles Leclerc's slightly off-colour lap. He lost, it was looking neat and tidy up until turn 14 and a lock-up, Sam.
Yeah, that's what I meant earlier, Harry, about how difficult it is to pick that braking point when you're on the limit after that long straight. So challenging to get it right and not snatch that inside front. Looking at the lap times now, Piastri 1:31.5. Everybody's going to have to run again. This track is just going to get faster and faster. I don't think anybody's put a marker down yet that is so quick that they don't need to run. As we see car 4, Lando Norris, lap time deleted for track limits at turn 9.
Lando Norris does not seem to be having a happy weekend, does he? That's 2 mistakes in the first qualifying yesterday. When I say first qualifying, I mean sprint qualifying as a whole, but in Q3, in sprint qualifying 3. He's made a mistake on his first flying lap in this qualifying session. He had a very low-key sprint race, finishing in the final points position in 8th, having spent most of the race staring at the back of Lance Stroll, Aston Martin, after making a mistake on the first lap and dropping 3 places. Not the kind of weekend that Lando Norris wants to be having as he starts his what he hopes will be his campaign for his first World Championship.
Yeah, it's been deleted for track limits at turn 9, which is the left-hander that begins a double left-hander, where we saw Jack Doohan clout the curb and spin off a few moments ago. So Norris is in the pits then. He'll need to go again. It's his teammate Piastri with just over 10 minutes on the clock who is fastest and back in the pits ahead of Hamilton, less than 1/10 splitting those two. Russell and Antonelli up in the top 4. Gasly, Ocon, Hulkenberg, the top 7. They're all out there on out laps. Behrman too has just emerged from the pit lane. Leclerc, who made a mistake, locked up his car. They will need to put another lap in too. He's down in 9th. Max Verstappen is coming to the line now. Runs a little bit wide coming out of the exit at the final corner, but not enough to slow him down too much, and goes clear by over 1/10 and a half. Top of the times for the Dutchman, a 1:31.424. Kimi Antonelli also put in a decent lap time. He's just behind his teammate George Russell, but nearly had a bit of a moment coming through the final corner, Sam.
That had Carlos Sainz from last year written all over it, but well caught. He kept his foot in and well caught.
Yeah. Dipped a wheel into the gravel and managed to hold on to it. Now Lando Norris, we're just seeing a replay of where he went wide, and all 4 wheels across the white line. It looked like the front left was on the white line, but clearly they've got a better view.
It was over. All 4 wheels were off. It just looked like carrying a smidge too much speed and creating a little bit of understeer.
And that was all she wrote for Lando Norris to have that lap time deleted. He's still in the pits. Albon's out there. Tsunoda, Hadjar, Lawson and Doohan all still needing times on the board. Doohan hasn't had the best first sector. Sainz is up on time in the first sector along with teammate Alex Albon. Hadjar car has just gone fourth fastest in the Racing Bulls, 4/10 off of Max Verstappen. What we saw in yesterday's sprint quali really was the track ramping up, a track that has been completely resurfaced in the build-up to this weekend. Evolution really will be rapid as the lappage continues to be put on the board. Alonso's up to 5th, Bortoleto has just got up to 7th as well, and this is the sound of Jack Doohan down on time in the first sector. Tsunoda pops himself up into 4th. Charles Leclerc is on an outlap at the moment. He'll need to put his lap time in. With 8 minutes on the board, he's in the bottom 5 as Doohan crosses the line and gets himself up into 13th spot. Sainz to the line now, up into 10th. Decent opening gambit from the Spaniard. And Alex Albon, his teammate, will cross the line next and once again improves and goes up to 6th. So Albon feeling much more comfortable at this stage in that Williams car. Crucially though, all eyes will be on Liam Lawson, who doesn't have the best entry into the final corner, had to have a couple of bites of the cherry, and it crosses the line 15th fastest. It's not going to be enough.
It's not good enough, Harry. It's not good enough. I mean, when your teammate currently is sat in the pits in first place in the session, you can't be down in 15th if you're in a Red Bull car 1 second off the pace.
At the moment in that elimination zone is Doohan. Hulkenberg though is just about to cross the line, gets so close to the gravel on exit and improves his lap time up into 7th. That does put Lawson back into the bottom 5 along with Doohan, Behrman. Leclerc is on an outlap and Lando Norris has re-emerged from the pits and will need to put in a lap in the next 6 minutes and 54 seconds. Leclerc and Norris both needing to find their way through into the next part of qualifying.
I mean, Lawson's going to have another bite at the cherry, of course. So is Leclerc down in 19th. So you've got Leclerc, Norris, Lawson, 3 guys in 3 great cars for this year, languishing down in the bottom 5 at the moment, whereas the likes of Nico Hulkenberg in an unfancied kicked Sauber up in 7th, Bortoleto up in 10th. So the order right now is very jumbled. I think we'll find some kind of stability come the end of Q1 with 6 minutes to go.
But this is the thing, it does feel like you're just going to have to be out there at the right time to almost get that last flying lap in as the checkered flag flies to get the best lap. Behrman's just gone up to 7th, and for the top teams, while you've got a Behrman in 7th, a Tsunoda and a Hadjar in 4th and 5th, you're at risk.
Absolutely, as we see Lando Norris go the best part of 3/10 clear in sector 1.
Absolutely. Well, 5 minutes and 53 seconds left on the clock. Leclerc is down on time compared to Lando Norris, who set a blistering opening sector, fastest of anybody. Kimi Antonelli has to go again as well. He's down in 16th at the moment. Gasly and Sainz on the bubble. Sainz is in the pits with 5.5 minutes on the clock. He should be able to run again if they want to send him out. He is at risk of dropping out, but here comes Charles Leclerc, will be the first of the big names in that bottom 5 to come across the line. Round the final corner, the DRS activates, finds time in the final sector, only up to 10th for Charles Leclerc.
I'm surprised that he completed that lap, seeing as that it wasn't an improvement in the first 2 sectors. I thought he might peel into the pits for another set of the soft tyre. We now see Lando Norris coming to the last corner. The rear of the car just complaining lots on maximum lateral G. Doesn't improve in the final sector, but does improve up to P6.
Yeah, better this time around for Lando Norris. Kimi Antonelli comes across the line in a Mercedes and pits them both, moves himself up into 3rd spot. Down in that elimination zone is Esteban Ocon, Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz, Liam Lawson and Jack Doohan. Now we're just getting a replay of Lando Norris, perhaps on that last lap around, and I hope it wasn't track limits for Lando Norris.
No, I don't think it was. I think he's safe on track limits. Yeah, he's safe on track limits, but that was a his delay on the throttle pedal, because he's gone in there, created a little bit of understeer, run out of road on the exit. Now we see a little bit of Liam Lawson. Oh, and the rear of the car again. It's the same as yesterday, Harry. Just looks like he's driving on ice.
His teammate is currently fastest with a 1:31.4, while Liam Lawson is down in 19th with a 1:32.4, a second off of Max Verstappen.
Liam Lawson's got another problem. He's under investigation for failing to slow for yellow flags. Must maybe Doohan, I guess, for the Doohan spin. Normally that means a penalty or a lap time deleted. So, I mean, at the moment, Liam Lawson is definitely making a sort of bid for being the worst teammate to Max Verstappen in Red Bull's history, isn't he?
There's your top line for the article. Right, less than 3.5 minutes left of this first part of qualifying to set the grid for Grand Prix Sunday. And right now, the entire bottom 5 are in the pits. It's Esteban Ocon in the Haas, Pierre Gasly's Alpine, Carlos Sainz's Williams, Liam Lawson's Red Bull, and Jack Doohan's Alpine. They do still all have time to get back out there again. And actually, Charles Leclerc will need to put in another lap as well, because he's down in 13th and will need to get a move on, because if the track wraps up and those are able to improve behind, Leclerc could be in trouble here. And we are, Sam, about to get a whole gaggle of cars coming out of the pits.
There's at least some good news. I'm not Sam, I'm Andrew, obviously.
Hi, Andrew.
Because Lawson has been cleared of the yellow flag infringement, at least. He's only got his pace to worry about now.
And yeah, just the second to find to his teammates. So tough for Lawson. And as they all start to peel out of the pits, what will be one final flyer. And we're just getting a replay of Lewis Hamilton rally styling his way through turn 1, Sam. The rear end kicking out from that Ferrari.
Yeah, such a difficult corner. It just goes on, as we said, forever. And there's a point where the car's so loaded that the rear can complain and give up. That's what we saw there. Interestingly, Charles Leclerc, I don't know what Lewis Hamilton's done tyre-wise. Charles Leclerc has come across the start-finish line extremely slowly. So I think they're doing either a cool or a double cool, and then going to go again. I wonder if they're trying to minimise the amount of tyres they use in this session, but that's risky. When he's down in 13th and you see all of the people around you, Bortoleto, Stroll, Ocon, Gasly, Sainz, all out on a new set of soft tyres, is that not leaving him really vulnerable in this late stage of qualifying, especially when the track is going to be ramping up so much?
The problem Leclerc's got is he's in a Ferrari and he's already on his second set of tyres, and there's not enough sets of tyres available to do 2 sets in each of the 3 sessions. So he's trying to, if he takes a third set for this session, then he's in real trouble. But I get what you're saying.
I agree, but isn't it better to start? Isn't it better to start 10th than 17th?
Yes, it absolutely would be, wouldn't it? But Leclerc then will get one final flyer. Here's Russell.
And George, just so it's clear, we do need this next lap.
And that's George Russell, who is currently in 10th. And if Mercedes is saying to him, we need this lap, then for everybody behind, they will also need it. That's Hülkenberg, Alonso, the big name Leclerc in 13th, ahead of Bortoleto and Stroll. If it ended like this, we'd lose Ocon, Gasly, Sainz, Lawson and Doohan, but they are all out there again. We saw the track ramp up all the way to the final flyers in yesterday's sprint qualifying. So let's see how the times begin. The fastest of anybody in the first sector is Lando Norris. Fastest in the middle sector actually goes to Isaac Hadjar and the Racing Bulls. They're looking quick. Hadjar and Tsunoda up in 5th and 6th as it currently stands. Max Verstappen fastest of anybody in the final sector, and he is the only man who has elected not to come out for a final flyer. He feels safe at the top, separated by over a 10th and a half to Oscar Piastri. But Charles Leclerc then is on what will be his final flyer, making his way down towards the left-hander of turn 11. He was complaining in the sprint earlier of how undrivable the car felt through the right-hander that he's approaching now of turn 13 as it curves round to give you that drivability onto the back straight. Let's hope he's been able to sort that in between now and then. Hülkenberg crosses the line in 7th. Behrman takes the flag in 11th. I think he wanted to get one final lap. I don't think he got it in time. Fernando Alonso, out-qualified by his teammate for the sprint, puts his Aston Martin up into 6th. That's putting Bortoleto down towards the bubble in 15th. Liam Lawson is still trying to improve on his lap time. Here comes Charles Leclerc, though, in need of a good lap. Neat and tidy so far, and it will be enough. Up to 2nd for Charles Leclerc in the closing stages of the first part of qualifying. Tsunoda goes to the top of the times, but it's George Russell now who is the next big name in danger here. Bortoleto has taken the flag behind him in 15th, but if anyone improves, Russell might be in trouble, but he won't be for long. He goes up into 2nd fastest. So, Carlos Sainz, Liam Lawson, Jack Doohan, all out there on laps at the moment. So too for Pierre Gasly, as the other Racing Bull of Isaac Hadjar joins his teammate at the top before they're both displaced by Lando Norris, who lays down the benchmark. Can Carlos Sainz get through and join his teammate into Q2? He can. Up into 8th spot. That pushes Bortoleto down. Albon's up to 6th. Jack Doohan here is in need of a decent lap. He's off the pace in the middle sector. Liam Lawson is about to cross the line as well to try and get himself up into Q2. Can he do it? He qualified last for the sprint qualifying, and he will be towards the back for the main Grand Prix as well. The Red Bull will be 20th and last. A disaster for the man up against Max Verstappen. Liam Lawson 20th and out of qualifying in the first stages. He'll join Gasly in 16th, Ollie Behrman 17th, Jack Doohan 18th, Gabriel Bortoleto 19th, with Lawson behind them all.
What's happened with Lance Stroll? Oh, is that a little bit of blocking?
I think that was with Behrman.
No, do you know what? I don't think he lost too much time there because he was flat out. So I think Behrman will be okay on that. But Liam Lawson down in 20th, that's the major blow for Red Bull. I mean, to have a driver down there when your other driver is clearly on song is very disappointing. And he'll be disappointed as well. Look, that second seat at Red Bull just seems impossible for anybody to carry that burden right now, because nobody has been able to grab it and make it their own.
I'm pretty sure this is the worst start to anybody in that second seat in the Red Bull.
But he's a really talented driver.
So that begs the question, what on earth is going on with that car and the way the team run it?
I really don't know. I mean, but you look at Yuki Tsunoda, the man that many people thought deserved to have a chance in that seat, and he's up in P3 in this session. Isaac Hadjar, in Yuki Tsunoda's teammate, up in P2. You know, it's not good enough for Liam Lawson to be down in last place.
His teammate in the end finished that first part of qualifying in 5th. Ollie Behrman couldn't out-qualify his teammate Esteban Ocon. The British rookie is knocked out in 17th. Both Alpines out in the first part of qualifying. Doohan behind his teammate Gasly, but not by much. So less than a tenth separating Doohan and Gasly. So small crumbs there for the Australian rookie. And Bortoleto, having out-qualified his more experienced teammate Nico Hulkenberg for the sprint race, couldn't quite follow that up for main qualifying, down in 19th, only ahead of that Red Bull of Liam Lawson. Standouts though at the end of that for the two Racing Bulls. Hadjar ahead of Tsunoda, Albon once again up there in 6th. It seems like, though, for the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, he just doesn't seem as hooked up and as on the pace as his teammate Hamilton, leaving it till the very end. Here's Russell first.
Too stressful, guys. Just stay chill. I was confident with the plan I said before. It just puts too much pressure on us all.
George Russell didn't like his run plan at the end of that, leaving it till the very end. Stressful for him, stressful for Leclerc as well, I imagine.
Yeah, I can imagine so. But in the end, Charles Leclerc made it through quite comfortably, and clearly that Ferrari is working very well. You would say, though, on current form, that Lewis Hamilton's probably got the edge on him this weekend. But look, we got two more exciting sessions this afternoon. And do you know what? I think it's more wide open than I thought for pole position, because you've got the two Ferraris that could do it. You've got both McLarens that, if they put a clean lap in, you never know. I think they could be on pole, and never ever discount Max Verstappen.
Tough day for the Alpine drivers. Both Alpines were out in the first part of sprint qualifying yesterday, and they find themselves out again in Q1. But the margins are so fine as well, especially in that midfield pack. It really is maximising everything you've got to try and get through. On this occasion, falling by the wayside are the two Alpine drivers of Pierre Gasly and Jack Doohan. Liam Lawson is out of the car and is immediately talking to his engineers just to the side of it. This is the sound of Lawson gearing up for his final flyer, and nearly has the front left taken off by an Alpine. We're just seeing a replay of it, and it's Pierre Gasly, and they're all finding space.
Wait, Gasly just... I don't know why. Honestly don't know why he needs to do that.
Yeah, copy.
So they were all trying to find space, gearing up to make sure they all had enough room to start their final flyers. And, well, I'm sure that wasn't the best of starts for Liam Lawson in his preparation, but ultimately that wouldn't have cost him a second to his teammate.
No, he would have left himself enough of a gap to Gasly that he wasn't disrupted by the airflow of the Alpine. I think it's a setup / confidence / car design issue at the moment, which is leading him to be that far off. We know that Liam Lawson is a talented, quick driver. We saw that in his previous team when he came in for a replacement for Daniel Ricciardo when he broke his hand at Zandvoort. Did an incredible job, but there's something that goes on at the second Red Bull seat that is challenging, as we see some nice messages for Eddie Jordan, who sadly passed away a couple of days ago.
Yeah, the Aston Martin team running a tribute on their livery for Eddie Jordan. Of course, the Jordan F1 team DNA running through Aston Martin and that Silverstone-based squad. You can hear our full tribute to Eddie Jordan, the flamboyant team owner and later TV pundit, with myself, Andrew Benson, Mark Gallagher, who was part of the management of that team, and Gary Anderson, who designed the first ever Jordan F1 car, on the Checkered Flag podcast feed. So you can have a listen to that. Some really nice stories there of what was a real remarkable man. So.
Yeah, brought through some pretty decent drivers, didn't he?
Certainly did. Gave Michael Schumacher his debut. Couldn't quite keep hold of him though, but certainly many a driver owing their career and success to Eddie Jordan, a man who will be very much missed from the paddock. But back to the racing action, which I'm sure is very much what Eddie would always want to see heading out, and we're nearly ready to go for the second part of qualifying.
So if anybody was synced in and watching just then, you would have heard a big clunk from the gearbox of the Haas going from neutral to first. That's pretty normal up and down the whole grid. From neutral to first, as we see it as well on Lewis Hamilton's neutral to first, really clunky. However, on circuit, these gearboxes are absolutely seamless. You do not feel a gear shift going up the box for the most part.
So why does that happen then? Why is there a big clunk from neutral to first and then super smooth on track? What's going on?
I'm a driver, I'm not an engineer, don't ask me. But it's just interesting how it's super clunky in the box, yet on track they are absolutely seamless. Like there's no movement whatsoever from these gearboxes, and they've perfected them. And when I used to test F1 cars, you could definitely tell the difference between an A grade upshift and a B grade upshift that was just, if it was a little bit out, you absolutely felt it, and it had a disastrous effect on your speed down the straight.
And you haven't got gears in your milk float, is that right?
My toaster, it's got one gear. Leave my toaster. Can you leave my toaster? That's all you need. Can you leave my Formula E car alone, please? Bullying me today.
I hear your Formula E cars are pretty quick off the line.
They are, exactly. 0 to 60 in 1.8. There we go.
That is pretty rapid, to be fair. Right, Q2 underway. 12 minutes and 20 seconds remaining. 15 drivers out on track. Once again, we will eliminate the slowest 5 come the end of the next 12 and a bit minutes. So gearing up then, getting the tyres up to temperature and trying to really get a value on how this track is shaping up. Evolution really is the order of the day. A track that was completely resurfaced coming into this weekend. We've got the soft tyre out on the circuit once again. The red-walled rubber, the quickest of the rubber. And, advantage after Q1 to Lando Norris and McLaren, who snuck up right at the end with the fastest lap time. And here we go, gearing up for his first flyer. The rookie, the man that replaced Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes, the Italian Kimi Antonelli. Many expecting him to be a wonder kid. Managed to work his way up from 17th on the grid in Australia round 1 up into 4th in really tricky conditions. Had the best race for a rookie in their opening round since Kevin Magnussen managed to put his McLaren on the podium back in 2014. Antonelli then making his way over the crest at turn 5 before it heads slightly downhill, down through the gears, braking for the right-hander of 6, and then you get into the middle sector full of medium speed corners. First of all, you sweep to the left through turn 7, then you sweep to the right through turn 8 before a touch on the brakes into a double left-hander, turn 9 and 10. Seeing track limits here, catching some drivers out, not for Kimi Antonelli, who keeps it within the white lines and now heads down the short straight between turn 10 and 11. It's a tight left-hander and a really unique corner before it almost arcs back on yourself through turn 12. Carry as much speed as you can onto that hugely long back straight, 1.4 kilometers in length, no traffic in front of him. The Ferrari gets nicely out of the way, the DRS is activated, the drag reduction system, the rear wing flies open to give the drivers an extra few kilometers an hour of straight line speed, and before you know it, you're slamming on the brakes into the right hander of 14, a slight kink through 15, one more corner to go, almost 90 degrees to the left, the gravel trap waiting for you if you run out too wide. Antonelli negotiates it well, and his first flying lap, a 1:31.590, immediately beaten by his teammate George Russell a couple of tenths quicker.
He's driving well though, isn't he, Antonelli, for somebody so young? It's quite impressive. He's definitely a serious talent for the future.
Certainly is, and just 18 years of age as well. They're getting younger every year. Isaac Hadjar gets his Racing Bull up into 4th spot. Will look good in qualifying in the opening round last weekend. Indeed, both Racing Bulls. It really looks like that team have put together a nice car, working for both drivers. Tsunoda with the experience, Hadjar, the rookie, who finished 2nd in Formula 2 last year. Hadjar 5th. Let's see where Tsunoda pops it up into 2nd for the Japanese driver, a 10th away from George Russell's time, but the man lighting up the timing screens is Lando Norris, fastest of anybody in the first and the middle sector. His teammates just gone fastest though by a 10th of a second, but I think Norris is about to absolutely smash that lap time to the line. 4 tenths clear, Norris to the top of the times.
And that's put it in the pits, clean it, and get ready for Q3 for Lando Norris. I think everybody else probably would need to run again.
Yeah, that's Norris looks like he's finally got on top of that McLaren. He was not comfortable with it yesterday or in the sprint earlier today, but that's the lap that I think the field would have expected Norris to be doing. By the way, I just want to make it clear, I was only joking about Formula E. It's very important.
Look, I'm not angry at you, I'm just disappointed in you. As we see,
feeling a bit bad about my anachronistic joke, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm not saying goodbye to you this evening. Max Verstappen goes 3rd in the Red Bull, roughly half a second behind Lando Norris. So currently McLaren 1-2, just as I like it.
Very nice. That's the voice of the McLaren Formula E driver, Sam Bird, with us on the commentary for the rest of the weekend. You're listening to live coverage of qualifying for the Chinese Grand Prix. It's round 2 of the 2025 Formula 1 season. And right now, it certainly looks like the advantage has been reclaimed by McLaren after a tough sprint session. Now we've got the sprint out of the way. It is all focus on Grand Prix Sunday.
I think a lot of it with Lando and maybe McLaren is just finding that sweet spot of the tyre warm-up and getting the tyre in the right window for the lap. I think this track is very, very tricky to get the tyre absolutely in the perfect spot so that it's ready for sector 1 but not overheating for sector 3, and there's a compromise, but you need to get the tyre warm-up correct.
Yeah, it's hard anyway here in Shanghai, but it's also difficult this weekend because Pirelli have mandated such high minimum pressures. It's like 27, I think, the minimum pressure on the fronts, which is it's crazy high really for a racing tyre. Formula 1 cars back in the sort of mid-2000s are running sort of 12, 13, 14 PSIs on the Michelins and Bridgestones back then. It's all to do with structural integrity of the Pirellis. They've always had a weakness around the shoulder, and their way of combating that rather than designing a different tyre is to just pump the pressures up. the drivers don't like it, the teams don't like it, but it's just something they have to put up with. But that makes it really difficult in this case, the tyres get too hot very quickly. I'm sure, Sam, you can say a bit more technically than I can about how an overpressured tyre will react heat-wise, but it means that once they get up to that high temperature threshold, it's really hard to bring them down again.
Yeah, absolutely. But effectively, the tyre will heat up quicker. You're running on less of a surface area, and therefore you've got less grip. The tyre is under less stress laterally because as Andrew said, the Pirelli has always suffered with lateral loading. We saw, 10-11 years ago at Silverstone, many tyres giving up and a lot of punctures, and I think that was something that they might have been concerned about coming into this race here in Shanghai. The way to combat that is blow the tyres up, and therefore the structural integrity remains, but as a driver it makes it very tricky. The car's dancing around a little bit more. You've got less global grip front and rear when you run those kind of high pressures.
Now, just something to bear in mind from these first runs, Norris's lap was very impressive, particularly, just comparing to Oscar Piastri, his teammate, 0.4 of a second quicker. But everyone from Antonelli down in terms of the front runners, so Antonelli, Hamilton and Leclerc all ran used tyres in that first run. So it's a different tyre strategy. Norris has obviously decided he's going to go out, bank the lap. If he nails that lap, he doesn't really have to worry about going out again. Whereas Hamilton, Leclerc and Antonelli, they're all going for a used tyre run to save that. Remember, I was saying there aren't enough tyres to do two runs of new tyres in every session, and then go out on the new tyre later on in the session.
Last runs then left for qualifying. It's Norris who is currently fastest, Piastri, Verstappen, Russell, Tsunoda, the top five. Then it's Antonelli in sixth, ahead of Hamilton, Albon, Leclerc and Hülkenberg, the top 10. At risk of elimination, Lance Stroll's Aston Martin, Esteban Ocon's Haas, Isaac Hadjar's Racing Bull, Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin and the Williams of Carlos Sainz, all now beginning to emerge from the pit lane in these final 4 minutes of running that we will get to continue to set the grid for Sunday's Chinese Grand Prix, which will get underway. You can hear that from lights out from 7 o'clock on Sunday on BBC Radio 5 Live. But yeah, 3.5 minutes left of the second part of qualifying, and even though it was Lewis Hamilton who had the best start to Saturday, achieving the unthinkable and getting his first win for Ferrari, right now the advantage has swung back to McLaren. Lando Norris currently fastest ahead of his teammate Piastri. You can also never rule out Max Verstappen though, as we continue to set the grid for Sunday's Chinese Grand Prix. Okay, right, last few minutes left and the final flyers are coming. Antonelli's just carving his way through turns 1 and 2 and looks like the rear has just kicked down. I think he's completely backed off of that one as well. As he slows up, he'll get time for another one and immediately backs up. His teammate is just making his way through turn 2 now. George Russell having to have a few goes at the steering wheel just as he gets the throttle down, but it's as smooth as he can make it. Important laps then for the likes of Hamilton down in 7th, Leclerc in 9th, Alonso is currently down in 14th. Carlos Sainz will be wanting to try and get on terms with his teammate Alex Albon, who's currently up and safe in the top 10, but the track improving all the time. And the other thing to factor is with 14 cars out there, traffic management will certainly still be a factor. The only driver not to emerge is Lando Norris, the one and only flyer. He has done enough to put him 4/10 clear. He feels safe with that lap time. He's not come out again for one final go.
Yeah, Lando Norris is safe, but George Russell's lap, he's just eking little bits of lap time. That Mercedes not looking the best when he tries to put the power down. Looks very difficult.
The magic is stuck.
Okay.
So Antonelli saying magic is stuck. Now, we've had the magic before. Andrew, can you remind us what that was?
It's a brake balance switch. Basically, they use it on warm-up laps and so on to warm up the front brakes. It puts the brake by something like 75% to the front, I think, and then you have to switch it off. Obviously, you can't have that for your flying lap.
And, well, we saw a problem when the magic got stuck on for Lewis Hamilton in Baku a couple of years ago when he went straight on at turn 1 on the safety car restart. So still very much in use by Mercedes, and Antonelli struggling with it then. Didn't manage to improve too much, still in 6th place. Lewis Hamilton is fastest of anybody in the middle sector. Charles Leclerc is out there on another lap as well. Isaac Hadjar in the Racing Bulls is running well in the middle sector. He's just coming through the middle of turns 9 and 10 at the moment for Hadjar. Lewis Hamilton running down towards turn number 14, hits the brakes into the right-hander. Just one more corner to go for the 7-time champion. Esteban Ocon has absolutely matched Nico Hülkenberg's middle sector time as well to get himself up into the top 10. Hamilton round the final corner to the line for the British racer, up into 6th spot, losing time in that final sector. Ran a little bit wide out of the final corner. Can his teammate Charles Leclerc join him? He's right on the bubble in 10th spot and has to have a few goes on the steering wheel to get into that final corner. Manages to pip his teammate in this session up into 6th. The two Ferraris 6th and 7th, curiously behind the Racing Bull of Yuki Tsunoda. Esteban Ocon in the Haas will be next to cross the line, and he does so and gets himself up into Q3, but there are cars behind him still going. Nico Hülkenberg has not had much to write home about on his lap. Hadjar up to 4th in the Racing Bulls, actually lost time in the final sector. Antonelli going again. He's got issues though with the magic brake button. Whether he's been able to solve that or not, we shall see, but he's up on time for the moment. Tsunoda gets himself up into 5th. That pushes Albon down to 10th. Ocon will go out along with Nico Hülkenberg. Alonso is improving on time. Carlos Sainz as well. We still got to see what the Spaniard can do. Stroll can't progress through. Antonelli doesn't improve. He stays in 9th. Alex Albon won't improve either. He stays in 10th spot. Can Alonso or Sainz cause anybody any trouble in the final stages? No. Alonso takes the flag in 13th, followed by his Spanish compatriot. Can he join his teammate through into the top 10? He can't. Sainz the slowest of the 15 runners in the Williams, and will have to settle for 15th spot in this one, and that is Q2 done and dusted. Out go Esteban Ocon in the Haas, Nico Hülkenberg in the Sauber, Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin and his teammate Lance Stroll, and Carlos Sainz's Williams in 15th.
But look how close it is, Harry. 2 tenths covering about 6 cars, going on board with Kimi Antonelli again. And that first corner, he's just every time I've seen him go through turn 1 and 2, it looks lively in the Mercedes. But we look at the timing now. I mean, Antonelli in 9th, 8 tenths off. Carlos Sainz in 15th, 1 second off. 2 tenths covering all those cars. It's so tight in that kind of front to mid pack. 2 cars though that absolutely stand out and have to be applauded. Isaac Hadjar and Yuki Tsunoda 4th and 5th.
Yeah, I think that's incredible so far from the 2 Racing Bulls.
Crazy out laps.
I think that was Alonso saying crazy outlaps, I think. So he wasn't happy with the traffic, I believe, on his outlaps. He had Antonelli tucked up right behind him after Antonelli bailed out of his first lap. Through then into the final part of qualifying go the 2 McLarens of Norris and Piastri, the 2 Racing Bulls of Hadjar and Tsunoda, the 2 Mercedes of Russell and Antonelli, the 2 Ferraris of Leclerc and Hamilton, the sole remaining Williams of Alex Albon, and the sole remaining Red Bull of Max Verstappen. And it's all teeing up to be quite a lively fight at the end, but it does feel, Sam, that Andrew does feel that Lando Norris does have that advantage again now.
As expected, I think yesterday was a bit of an anomaly. I'm struggling to speak. I apologise for that, everybody. But meanwhile, the point I wanted to make was I think there's a strong argument to say that the Racing Bulls is the 2nd fastest car in Formula 1 at the moment.
That is an incredible result. They could really cause an upset this afternoon.
Tsunoda qualified 5th in Melbourne. Here they are. Where are they? 4th and 5th now after Q2. They were Tsunoda was 5th on the grid for the sprint. I don't think anybody would say that Isaac had his Albon's radio.
Yeah, he's just snuck in. No whisker. Run!
I don't think anyone apart from Yuki Tsunoda and Isaac Hadjar themselves, and even perhaps not even them, would say they're better drivers than George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, etc. And yet there they are in 4th and 5th place. It's absolutely remarkable.
It is incredible. Hadjar, who is one of the 6 rookies in the field, the man who came runner-up in the Formula 2 Championship last year, was having such a good opening round in Australia up until the formation lap, where he spun out on the way to the grid and found himself in the wall and off to a bad start with Dr. Helmut Marko. Well, if he can bounce back this weekend, that will certainly say something to Red Bull's motorsport advisor. And Yuki Tsunoda was hard done by not to pick up points in Australia. The team going the wrong way of the strategy. Here is Hadjar's radio.
I clearly felt the change. Could have pushed more.
I didn't quite pick that up. What did he say?
He clearly felt the change could have pushed more. I think he needs to not stress it, man. You know,
he is. That is having.
Calm down, Isaac.
So I commentated on Hadjar in Formula 3, and he is like that. He's generally just quite stressed on the radio fairly often. So we'll see if that calms down. We saw that with Tsunoda as well when he first came into Formula 1, and that he has certainly matured over the radio in the last few years.
It's the angriest team radio in the pit lane.
It really is,
isn't it?
It really is. They've let themselves in for one on that one. Nico Hülkenberg doing a good job in the Sauber, I think, which was pretty slow in the sprint. 12th.
Very annoying what he did. Just left the car into the braking of 14. That's pretty nasty.
So Hülkenberg wasn't happy with the amount of space he was given. Sam, would you agree with his lamenting there?
It's not ideal if the car in front is not more towards the inside.
You almost.
Yeah, not more towards the inside. I don't think it would have cost him any time. I think he's just venting a little bit of frustration. Remember, we in the car, we're quite emotional characters, especially if it hasn't gone our way. Even the cooler drivers can get frustrated. So yeah, it's one of those things.
We'll talk about emotion. Alex Albon, when he was told he'd made it through into the top 10 by a whisker, celebrating with his arm punching the air like he'd won the race. That's how much it meant for him to get that Williams 2. But certainly best of the rest at the moment, or perhaps even better than some of the top dogs right now, are the Racing Bull drivers. Hadjar finished that session in 4th, Yuki Tsunoda in 5th, ahead of the Mercedes of Russell, both Ferraris, Leclerc and Hamilton, down in 7th and 8th, Antonelli and Albon. But of course, this is the session, Sam, where it really ramps up, where we really see what everyone has got as Max Verstappen peels out of his garage.
Yeah, now we find out who wants to be on pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix. Going back to Isaac Hadjar, I'm super happy for him, and the fact that he's having a much stronger weekend here in China. I mean, Helmut Marko, the kind of driver advisor who's seen so many talents come through the Red Bull Junior ranks, called him embarrassing after the Australian Grand Prix. Well, I think he's answered his critics very nicely so far today.
Yeah, he actually had a strong weekend in Melbourne. He didn't quite make the top 10 in qualifying, but he was competitive with Tsunoda all weekend. He obviously, a very difficult moment for him on the formation lap, losing control in the wet. For every driver, I mean, Hadjar himself admitted it was embarrassing. He was embarrassed, and that's why he was crying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's all his life he dreamt of that moment, and it went wrong. Of course you're going to be in tears. So for your driver advisor, one of your bosses, to call you embarrassing must have been a real kick in the teeth. Whereas you saw Anthony Hamilton put an arm around him, as if father to son, kind of, come on, it's okay, don't worry. That's the kind of reaction I would have wanted from my employers, not what I got. However, Helmut Marko has his way, and he's brought on a lot of other talents through the sport, and he has to be praised for that. But Isaac Hadjar doing a really solid job.
Have we got a new French sensation in Formula 1? They do call him Le Petit Poste in the French media. That's the favourite commentary stat that everyone comes out with for Isaac Hadjar. So let's see if he can follow it up.
Do we know why they called him Le Petit Prost?
I'm imagining for his clinical-like racing.
He's actually bigger than Prost.
If we're going on centimetres in height, then quite possibly. I think it's more referring to youth and age on that front. But clearly, a lot riding on the Frenchman. Of course, no French Grand Prix on the calendar. Now 2 French drivers in Formula One. Hadjar along with Pierre Gasly. As we get the green light underway then for the final part of qualifying, Q3, and they're almost racing out of the pit lane between Max Verstappen and George Russell, trying to vie for a bit of on-track action, and Russell actually getting ahead of Verstappen.
I think the Mercedes needs a harder warm-up lap. That's why you see that. George Russell wants to get on with it and do his warm-up lap his way. We actually saw that last year as well. The Mercedes has to work. It's especially the front axle a little bit more than others, so that it effectively gets through that layer of resin and wakes the tyre up.
And George Russell certainly wanting to get a hurry on with it, immediately going around the outside into turn 1 of Max Verstappen to try and get up the road and get himself that space and the time he needs to get his tyres up to temperature. And away he goes as they all now begin to come out of the pit lane. Verstappen, Piastri, Hadjar, Tsunoda, Russell, Leclerc, Hamilton, Antonelli, Albon, Norris, all vying in the top 10. And the battle for pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix is about to get going.
So ironically, I'm looking this up. I'm reading a French article at the moment about why Hadjar's called Le Petit Prost, and it's apparently because one of his principal characteristics, I should say, is because he drives with his head and not his emotions, is what they say. But we're hearing exactly the opposite, which, because that was what Alain Prost was like.
Yeah, I thought it was more for I thought it was more clinical driving manoeuvres on the track. But well, we'll see, because at the moment, I mean, he has got quite a loud team radio call on every time he feeds back, but certainly showing his emotions out of the car in Australia. Let's see what his emotions are like come the end of this qualifying. It's his first Q3 appearance, so that in itself is a feat.
Another one, it says, quoting Hadjar, saying, "I don't take unconsidered risks, I don't make impossible overtaking moves, I don't do anything stupid," is what he says.
Maybe this is the French Motorsport Federation doing some good PR then for their next young hope. He has been heavily backed by them throughout his career, along with Red Bull. Either way, he's made it into Q3 at the second time of asking, just missed out in Melbourne, and both him and his teammate Tsunoda are up there and could cause a bit of heartbreak for some of the bigger teams this afternoon.
I think we're seeing George Russell actually maybe doing a second warm-up lap, or maybe he made a mistake in the first sector, because we've just seen Max Verstappen breeze past him at quite an alarming speed. Max Verstappen obviously purple in sector 1 and sector 2 now, but we are very early in the session. Interestingly, Harry, George Russell's outlap was about 15 seconds quicker than Max Verstappen, which is what I meant by they're trying to generate a little bit more into those front tyres to get them to work compared to the Red Bull.
Certainly still trying to understand how their car treats those tyres, and needing to apply more pressure for the temperatures to get up to speed. Norris with the first lap time on the board heads to that P1 spot, but Max Verstappen, Norris just on an outlap I should say, but Max Verstappen will be the first one to come across the line, and it's a 1:30.925 from the Dutchman, and Kimi Antonelli runs quite a bit out wide and sweeps a lot of gravel back onto the circuit as he comes across the line up into second. Hadjar gets a face full of dust. He goes quicker than the Mercedes driver up into second, but it's Piastri in the McLaren who's quickest of anybody so far. Tsunoda, the next Racing Bull, across the line. He's not as quick as his teammate is Yuki Tsunoda. A couple tenths off Hadjar on the opening flyers, but right now it's Racing Bulls 2 and 3 behind their Red Bull older sister Max Verstappen up there. But Piastri puts pay to that, and McLaren lay down their first marker. 2 tenths clear at the top for Piastri as we await the 2 Ferraris and Norris to come across the line. Lewis Hamilton will be the first of those Ferraris round the final corner, puts himself up into third, 2/10 down with 7.5 minutes on the clock. Piastri, Verstappen, Hamilton, the top three. Where can Charles Leclerc place himself? Has looked a little bit off the pace compared to his teammate Hamilton, and that continues, just slots in behind his teammate into fourth. That's 7 cars setting lap time so far as Norris comes across the line, fastest of anybody in the final sector, less than a tenth off though. Piastri, it's 1-2, but Piastri ahead of Norris.
So 900ths between the two McLaren drivers and 2,000ths between Verstappen and Hamilton in third and fourth. And they're a couple of tenths behind McLaren. So it looks like pole is between Piastri and Norris as things stand, and then third, very, very close between Verstappen and Hamilton, with Charles Leclerc just a tenth, less than a tenth behind those two drivers. Oh, Russell snuck in there ahead of Leclerc into fifth.
I think it's between Piastri, Norris, Verstappen or Hamilton. Actually, Benny, I think 2 to 2.5 tenths around this track isn't an insurmountable amount of lap time. If it's a little lock up here, a slight bit of understeer there, it adds up to a lot of lap time around this track.
And I'm just going to throw in a curveball. Hadjar and Tsunoda in the Racing Bulls are 7th and 8th, a fair bit off in terms of time, but they were on used tyres for that first run. So I think they're in the mix for the top 5 or 6 for sure.
That would be a fantastic result for the Faenza-based team. And we've still got more time though before that checkered flag comes down at the end of this qualifying session. 5 minutes and 53 seconds remaining. It's Piastri who currently leads a 1-2 with Norris in second for McLaren, Verstappen third, Hamilton fourth, Russell fifth, Leclerc behind. Then it's the two Racing Bulls of Hadjar and Tsunoda, Albon in ninth. Antonelli had his lap time deleted for running out wide, so he'll need to go again. He's currently 10th and last.
Yeah, Antonelli down in 10th, no lap time, but also probably a slightly damaged floor. That'll be 2 weekends in a row where the underside of his car has been examined heavily by a harsh curb. Obviously, in the high-speed change of direction, the right-hander on the exit there in Q1 in Australia, now in Q3 here in China. He's certainly quick and got amazing talent, but if he's got the chance to match Russell, he can't be running wide like that.
No, the team will bring him back into the pits where he is already in his garage. We'll check over that car and send him out again if they can for one final flyer. All quiet out on track with all 10 drivers back into their garages as they await the call to go out on the circuit for one last time, the fastest laps they can set to give themselves the best position for Sunday's Chinese Grand Prix.
Before the event, who did you pick for pole again?
I picked Piastri.
I picked Piastri.
We were together. It was Benson.
Who did you pick, Benny?
I picked Norris.
Yeah. What do you know? What do you know?
But it's not over till it's over. Less than a tenth separating the two McLarens. At the moment, it does look like they have a slight advantage over the rest of the field. 2 tenths clear of Max Verstappen, but we will still get one final flyer from the remaining drivers. How close can it get? This whole season has been anticipated as one of the best possibly in Formula One history. How tight will it be on track? We saw that in the sprint. It's all about getting your car in the right position at the right time and maximising what you have underneath you.
I enjoy these last seasons of regulations. That's when we see the cars at their closest. We saw it when Max Verstappen went head-to-head with Lewis Hamilton in that famous season that really brought Formula One back to life a little bit. I think it was 2020 or 2021, was it, Harry? 2021. Amazing season. And we're seeing that again, the glimpses of that now with the Red Bull, with the McLaren, with the Ferrari, all so close. Also with the Racing Bulls looking super competitive.
Here we go then as the cars head out on track. And talk of Racing Bulls, that was almost a collision in the pit lane between the Racing Bull of Isaac Hadjar, who was sent out into the path of Max Verstappen, who had to do a little bit of avoiding driving there.
Yeah, I think that might be an unsafe release for them. We'll have to see whether it comes up.
Welcome along to the Shanghai International Circuit for those who are joining us now on BBC Radio 5 Live. Less than 3 minutes to go of this qualifying session, and right now it looks like McLaren have the advantage. It's Oscar Piastri on provisional pole with Lando Norris behind him. Max Verstappen is third. Lewis Hamilton, who won the sprint earlier today, making waves, taking his first win for Ferrari, is currently in fourth and not out of this one yet. George Russell is fifth, ahead of Charles Leclerc. The two Racing Bulls, the midfield team who could throw a spanner into the works here. The rookie Isaac Hadjar is seventh, ahead of his Japanese teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Alex Albon is ninth for Williams, and Kimi Antonelli will need to set a lap time. The Mercedes rookie currently 10th and last in this gaggle of 10 drivers as we fight for pole, but the final flyers are about to be set. Joining myself, Harry Benjamin, is the McLaren Formula E driver Sam Bird. This is going to be crucial, isn't it, Sam? Max Verstappen is about to start his final flyer into the sunshine, down the main straight as the blue skies overlook this Shanghai International Circuit. You can never rule Max Verstappen out of this one either.
Absolutely not. He always gets and extracts the maximum out of his Red Bull machinery. Oscar Piastri sitting pretty at number one right now, but can Lando Norris displace him, or will Max Verstappen be there to spoil a McLaren party?
Here we go then, and all cars out onto the circuit. Verstappen up on time at the moment, fastest of anybody in the first sector, has beaten Piastri's initial first sector time. Norris is just making his way through turns 2 and 3 now. That long 270-degree right-hander before you immediately switch back on yourself to the left, arcing over the crest of 4 and 5, and then into the downhill braking zone. The right-hander of turn 6. It's not as quick as Verstappen's first sector time though for Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri is also just coming into the middle sector
Max
2.
Verstappen's lost time, Harry, and Max Verstappen's lost time in sector 2. Now just over a tenth down on Oscar Piastri. He needs to find something in this final sector.
Lewis Hamilton's going well too in the middle sector at the moment. The Ferrari driver fresh off the back of getting that sprint win. This is going to be so close come the end of this session, but Norris is down on time as well in the middle sector. 2 tenths down on Piastri. Could Piastri's first benchmark time in this session prove fruitful for him? Could he look at getting pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix? We are 30 seconds away from finding out. First across the line will be Max Verstappen, who almost runs out into the gravel round the final corner. He can't improve his lap time. Verstappen stays third. What about the Racing Bull of Isaac Hadjar? The French rookie does improve his time, stays in 7th. Lando Norris now making his way to the final corner, and he backs out of it and bails out. Norris will not improve his lap time. Piastri's not improving either, so it will be over to Lewis Hamilton, but he's not doing enough to try and challenge for pole. He cements 4th. Piastri won't be able to do it either. He's losing time. Yuki Tsunoda is improving further back in the pack. Piastri does take the flag and improves right at the closing stages. Fastest of anybody in the final sector, and that may well secure Oscar Piastri pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix. We're still waiting for the second Ferrari of Charles Leclerc to take the flag, but he's down on time in the middle sector, approaching the final corner now, slings it into the left-hand side, keeps all 4 wheels north of the white line and across the line, and he can't beat his teammate. The 2 Ferraris, Hamilton 4th and Charles Leclerc in 6th, with just George Russell and Kimi Antonelli to go, but Antonelli won't be improving his lap time. Russell, the British driver, splits the McLarens. What a result for the Mercedes of George Russell as the checkered flag flies in qualifying. Russell will start the Chinese Grand Prix on the front row, but it is Oscar Piastri who takes pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix. The wonderful result for the Australian. Russell in 2nd, Norris 3rd ahead of Verstappen. Hamilton rounds out the top 5 ahead of Leclerc. Isaac Hadjar, a sensational run for the rookie in 7th ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Yuki Tsunoda 9th, with Alex Albon rounding out the top 10. We have got a race in our hands, and you can hear it all live on Sunday on 5 Live. Build up from 6:45 ahead of Lights Out from 7 o'clock in the morning. And Breed, what a result, not only for Oscar Piastri, but a sensational lap at the end, Sam, for George Russell.
Yeah, nobody saw that coming, did they? The pace of the Mercedes there just completely catching us out. We thought it was a done deal with Norris being in second and a McLaren front row, but George Russell, fair play. That is a great result, and really not what Norris wanted at all.
A first pole position then for Oscar Piastri in Formula One, and a fantastic result for him. George Russell in second, the previous best qualifying around this track of 8th. Well, he's absolutely smashed that out of the park with a fantastic flyer. Lando Norris's final lap time, well, he bailed out of it at the end, and as a result, he misses out on that front row start.
Yeah, I think we'll speak about Lando and this weekend for him later on, and you'll probably catch that in the pod. But
lovely plug.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought I'd get it in there. Thank you. I think of all the qualifying laps he's done this weekend, and we've obviously had 2 qualifying runs this weekend. I think he's only done 1 or 2 laps that he would probably be happy with over the course of all the qualifying sessions, and one of them being in Q2 today, and I think there was one in Q2 yesterday that was fairly sublime as well. So when it got down to Q3 on both days, he's not quite driven at his best. Clearly the pace is there for him. He's clearly quick enough to be on the front row, but he hasn't quite put it together, and I think he'll go back to the hotel later a little bit disappointed with the day's work.
But they've made it back to Parc Fermé, the top 3 emerging from the P2 position after securing second in qualifying, and a wave to the grandstands that are absolutely packed out here in Shanghai is George Russell, straight over to his mechanics and engineers waiting for him to celebrate a great qualifying. We still have a race to run though, which will be 56 laps of non-stop racing. Tyre management will be crucial. Surviving lap 1 will be crucial. But for Oscar Piastri, a first career pole position in Formula One, after the heartbreak of Melbourne, missing out on a podium, maybe even the win, this is a good way to bounce back and try and claw back crucial points that he has lost.
Yeah, great win. And this result in qualifying, getting on pole, has been coming for Oscar Piastri. He's a real talent. Zach Brown really believes in him. That's why he's had the contract extension.
Well, let's hear from our drivers speaking to Jolyon Palmer.
Well, Lando, you're back in the top 3, but I sense you're a little bit disappointed with that one. Not able to hook up the final lap. How was it for you out there?
Yeah, I mean, always disappointed if I'm not on pole, but Oscar deserves it today. He's done a very good job all weekend, so happy for him, his first pole in Formula One, so it's always cool. Yeah, just a couple of mistakes again. Kind of been my case this weekend, but the car was feeling a bit better today. I felt a lot more comfortable with the car, so a step in the right direction, especially from yesterday where I was struggling a lot, and even this morning I was struggling a lot. A much better direction that we're going in, so yeah, not too disappointed.
And we're seeing so much pace from you so far this season, but we are seeing a few laps not completed quite as you would want them. A couple of errors here or there you allude to. Is the car really tricky to drive at the moment? Is it difficult to get it on the knife edge, just absolutely spot on?
I mean, yeah, I've said that plenty of times, so it is. It's so quick enough, you know, we're never doubted that it's the quickest car. It can just be a little bit feisty at times, but no, today is not so much that. Today was just mistakes from my side, and that's all.
And in terms of a race, you had the sprint earlier, didn't go your way at all, but can you learn from that? Did you change the car much? How are you feeling for tomorrow?
Yeah, we changed quite a lot on the car because we were nowhere, and yeah, we worked quite hard to make some improvements into quali and hopefully for the race tomorrow, so we'll see.
All right, good luck for tomorrow, Lando.
Lando Norris then, who starts 3rd for the Grand Prix, speaking to Jolyon Palmer, out-qualified by his teammate Oscar Piastri.
George, what a performance on the front row in 2025. How was that for you?
Feels incredible, to be honest. It was one of the hardest quali sessions I've done in a long time, and I was trying all sorts with my preparation with the tyres, and nothing seemed to be clicking. and did something totally different on that last lap, and it just all came alive. The lap was awesome, and just, yeah, so happy to be P2.
What was the difference? What did you do different?
Oh, I mean, I was going fast on the outlap, slow on the outlap, prepping the outlap. It was just, and the last one was a bit of a roll of the dice, and I had a big moment at turn 1, but it just all came together, and I was really surprised when I crossed the line. I knew it was a good lap, but to see that I was between the McLarens, buzzing and looking forward to tomorrow.
And in terms of race pace, we saw earlier on you were honing in on the top 3, didn't quite get there, but the degradation looks really tough out there. How are you feeling over the full distance?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think the medium tyre and the sprint was really difficult. Obviously, I think most drivers will start on that at the front of the field tomorrow. And then the hard, no one's ran all weekend. So nobody knows right now if it's going to be a 1 or a 2 stop. We know the McLarens are going to be quick, but I'll be doing everything to try and stay where we are or try and jump ahead of them.
Should be a lot of fun. Good luck,
Thank
George.
you so much. Thank you.
George Russell.
Oscar Piastri. Grand Prix pole position for the first time, and what a way to do it. 2 laps that would have had it there for you. You just seem hooked up today.
I'm glad it looked like that because it didn't feel like that. I think, Q3, just found a lot of pace. You know, Q1 and Q2, I was genuinely struggling. The car just came alive in Q3, and I think I came alive in Q3. So, happy with what I did at the end. Even still, the laps were a little bit scruffy, but very, very... I'm just pumped to be on pole, so very happy.
You've just done the fastest ever lap of this circuit. New asphalt, loads of grip, obviously a car that's working well. How much of a buzz is it to drive at these speeds?
It's a lot of fun. I think with the new surface, it's extremely grippy, which for us, it's the best feeling in the world. So the only thing that comes with that is when you lose grip, it bites. I think you've probably seen a lot of snaps, a lot of moments this weekend, and with the surface we've got, it's pretty tricky. But when you hook it up, it feels pretty mega. So I'll take the fastest lap of Shanghai.
Big smiles from you, but there is still a race to do tomorrow, still a Grand Prix win to add to this pole position. And you had the dress rehearsal earlier on. Car looked good, but Ferrari looked exceptionally strong as well. How are you feeling? Obviously, a bit of clear air for you, hopefully, at the start of the race.
Yeah, I think that is hopefully going to be a help. I was going to make sure I keep that clean air, but I was pretty happy after the sprint. I think we did the most that we could have. I was pretty happy with, I would have been happier with 1 spot higher, but how the race turned out, I couldn't have asked for much more. So I feel like we learned a lot this morning, and looking forward to trying to put that into use tomorrow.
All right, well, congratulations, Oscar. Good luck for the race tomorrow. Well done.
First pole position for Oscar Piastri, and he sets the absolute lap record of the Shanghai International Circuit, snatches it away from Sebastian Vettel's 2018 lap time and puts in a 1:36.41. So double bubble. Can he make it a Grand Prix victory tomorrow? We shall see. He'll have a fight on his hands. George Russell will start alongside him for Mercedes. Lando Norris in 3rd, Max Verstappen from 4th, ahead of the Ferraris, Hamilton 5th and Leclerc in 6th. Isaac Hadjar in 7th, who is under investigation for that unsafe release in the pit lane. Kimi Antonelli in 8th, ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. Alex Albon rounds out the top 10. Ocon, Hulkenberg, Alonso, Stroll and Sainz the top 15, ahead of Gasly, Behrman, Doohan, Gabriel Bortoleto and Liam Lawson in the Red Bull 20th and last. That just about wraps up our live coverage of qualifying for the Chinese Grand Prix. We will be analysing all of what we have seen today in the Checkered Flag podcast, which will drop onto your feeds and on BBC Sounds a little later on today, so do stay tuned for that. In the meantime, my thanks to Andrew Benson, my thanks to Sam Bird. I've been Harry Benjamin. You can join us for the race. 56 laps around the Shanghai International Circuit will be live on BBC Radio 5 Live. Build up from 6:45 in the morning ahead of Lights Out from 7 o'clock. We shall see you then. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.